What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla stock, what's going on with SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. Talk about why on earth the market has more potential to squeeze and try to push up a little bit higher before we see a potential rejection. I'm going to make an adjustment from my previous video. I'm going to break down exactly why that is and something very big that's going on in the markets as I predict what's going to happen for today. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just say two things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, at the end of the video, please smash the like button if you really enjoyed the video. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with Tesla and the whole market. Tesla's still relatively strong. I think Tesla's building some relative strength. I think Tesla's going to try pushing up today with the market as time goes on. But we may start to fade as the day progresses because of what we're seeing on the options chain and some historical data. So first off, let's talk about some data. Just as a reminder, we just had the export prices come out month over month, and they were a little bit hotter than expected, which is still showing us signs of inflationary pressures going up. However, as we approach the next major piece of data, which is going to be the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report and the 5-year inflationary expectations, I think either as we approach it or after the data comes out, the market's going to get a very, very nice rally. The market's going to temporarily rally and start pumping once this comes out, and the market may establish its high and start fading as the day goes on because I'm seeing some potential bearish divergences that could develop intraday. This is a big adjustment from yesterday, but I think that's very probable, especially because historically the market does start to slow down a bit after September 15th. So what I think is going to happen is based off what we're seeing. I'm going to talk about the charts in just a minute, but let's first talk about some news. We had some good, upside on the Dow, not to mention the Nasdaq as the market tried to push. We saw some news about the UAW workers who are going on strike at 3 key auto plants. ARM had its IPO, gaining almost 25% just during its first day alone. Airlines are struggling thanks to fuel prices going up. This is going to be very, very important for anyone that's invested in them. This may hurt them as they're cutting their profits and cutting their potential earnings and the forecasts so far. Not to mention, the last piece of news is JP Morgan. They're stepping up and they're planning to offer digital payroll processing systems for small businesses as time goes on, so that could help boost competition. Now, when it comes to the options chain for SPY for today, I just want to mention that we're seeing a more open interest around this 450 to 451 strike zone. I think that there's going to be a pump in this area looking at the options, but I think that all that's going to happen is the shorts are going to try to readjust. They're going to close some positions as the market pushes, but then start to reopen them, and they may actually make an attempt to do so. So we're actually seeing them closing a lot of their positions, at least temporarily. This is what's leading the market to potentially pump a little bit more, but then they may try to enter them, and that's going to be completely fine with the current options chain because 440 is max pain with a 2.27 put to call ratio. We're way above max pain. The market makers are fine with that. And it's looking like the market's going to likely pump. We're going to get a very, very nice pump. We were calling that yesterday, and I think it's going to happen. But it may fade as time goes on because of the historical data and then based off the adjustments in the options chain. So I think that what's going to happen is we pump initially, and then lots of these puts, they're going to try to re-enter these puts, and they're going to try to push the market down afterwards. And I think they're going to try to fight back. And I think that there's a good chance of that happening. The market makers allowing it since we're well above max pain. I think the market's going to likely do something like this where we get a really, really nice pump. The market's going to either pump approaching the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report or after the report comes out. We're going to see SPY try to push towards this 451 to 452 area or very close to this zone. At the very least, we should fill the gap around the higher 450s, 450.7 around there. But I think it's going to go a little higher towards the 451s. And then if we do break 452, we could go technically up to 454, but I'm not really counting on it to go that high. I would say somewhere around here, just under 452 is where the market may top. And I think as time goes on, the market may fade because of the options chain and historical data. And I think that we're going to see a pop and a drop for today in the markets. I think that's the most likely possibility for SPY. I think that Tesla is going to follow a similar trend. Now I'm going to switch over to Webull just to be quick because I want to make this fast. Looking at Tesla, it's kind of flat right now on the MACD, but one thing that's worth noting is that it may pop towards this 280 area, maybe into the low 280s. There could be more upside coming for Tesla. Then we might see Tesla fade as time goes on, but still show some relative strength compared to the market. So I think Tesla's going to hold up a lot better. but it's going to pump towards the 280s and come back down into the high 270s for today. And I think that's very, very probable. For SPY, I just want to mention that it's quite oversold. And I think if we do pop to fill this gap, if we break the high of 451.08, we're going to likely establish an intraday bearish divergence. And I think what's going to happen is if we do end up doing that, we're going to get an intraday rejection and the market's going to start cooling off as time goes on. So watch for a pump, then a fade as time goes on. I'm starting to see this based off the RSI. And that's also suggesting that for SPY as we have a big adjustment relative to yesterday. So watch for a pump and then a slowdown as time goes on. Looking at Aapl, I think that something very similar will happen as we're approaching our 200 EMA. We could break a little bit above this and hit the 178s before rejecting and cooling off just a little bit. But I say that because Apple's already in overbought territory. So look for a pop on Aapl and then watch it slow down. This may play a big role in the market cooling off a bit because Apple is going to act as the big anchor slowing the market down later on. But look for a pop first. It's going to push towards the 178 area. Then it may cool off as time goes on. Looking at the QQQ, I think there's going to be upside coming. I think it's not necessarily done just yet. We have a gap that formed that's going to try to fill the gap and push into the 378s. Could get close to like 380, like we were talking about yesterday. But if it does do so, I could still see a bearish divergence developing. And it may pop a little bit, then come right back down and start cooling off as time goes on. All right, so I think that's very probable. Watch for this thing to pop first, then potentially drop. And I think that may end up dictating how other stocks move. For Nvda, I think this thing is going to make an attempt to bounce because it's at the 200 EMA. The market's going to pop, and I think Nvidia is going to try to follow the trend. But as time goes on, we might see Nvidia reject off this 460 zone. This is where the 50 EMA is. Now, we could be establishing this inverse head and shoulders, but we could be stuck in this range for some time before we get any attempt to break out, or if we fail. I think it's going to try to bounce off 452, make an attempt. Come down a little bit, then try to bounce, try to push towards 460, slow down as time goes on, and then kind of fade and close very, very flat. I think that's very probable for Nvidia. So watch for this thing to try to bounce around the time like 10 o'clock a.m. when the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report comes out. Watch it slow down as time goes on, and I think that we're going to stay in this range for quite a bit of time and slow down as the day goes on. Looking at the VIX, we're going to be watching this thing potentially cool off a bit as the market makes an attempt to bounce. Then we're going to be watching the VIX establish its bottom and still maintain this bullish divergence. Then get a very nice bounce as the market cools off later on. The dollar is gapping up, which tells me the dollar may start dropping a bit, which could help the market pump later on. So early on, I think that's going to happen, but the dollar is going to find its bottom between 105 and 105.25, and then it's going to try to bounce, which can slow the markets down. So that's my prediction, guys. I think now the charts have adjusted, and we're likely going to see the market pump. There's going to be a nice pump coming, but it's going to be followed by a fade. The market's going to fade as time goes on, and I think that this is based off the option chain and historical data. It's very important to make these adjustments. That's what I think is very probable. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. I'll most definitely see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.